Good morning. This is Micah McGee at legalmagnetism.com, and this is probably going to be a word salad of a speech this morning, but in my head I had an argument with Matthew Smith, who was my former TC at Flourish Australia, whether you got up at the crack of dawn or the sparrow fart. And I'd never heard of sparrow fart, but currently this is my last day at Flourish Australia, even though I haven't been working there for 2 weeks due to a disagreement over how participants get treated, and I'm still just getting over not working for Flourish Australia. However, when I did work for Flourish Australia, I worked with this amazing woman named Anne Griffey, and Anne Griffey was from Inverell, and when she graduated high school, Macintyre High School, she got a very high academic mark and wanted to become a dentist. And so when she went down to Sydney to become a dentist, I think at the University of New South Wales or the University of Sydney, I've forgotten, she had a mental breakdown, and what happened to her is she was scheduled into the Mater Hospital, and this is a thing, this is not my story, this is Anne Griffey's story, but Anne Griffey inspired me to write this blog, and Anne Griffey is also inspiring me to do public speaking, even though that's my greatest fear. So I'm dedicating this to Anne Griffey, who taught me that self-talk is okay and you're not a psycho with auditory hallucinations. I was lying there, I wanted to write about this, it wasn't a good draft, and so I felt like Anne Griffey said to me, the day is going away and you have nothing to say, never. So in this blog, I tried to explain how I saw Julia Gillard introduce the NDIS through third-party compulsory insurance for damage that the state does to people. And not everyone wants to go and see a lawyer that promises you a big payout so they can go to the government, and the government will just give them help in terms of NDIS package. But before then, they have to be disabled, and there's a problem with what people consider disabled. There's a commentator called Leith Van Olsen who did this interesting chart on the Australian economy, and he's claiming that the Australian economy is going bankrupt because most people in the Australian economy are doing these pathetic jobs where they take people shopping and they go to the chemist with them and they hang out with them, and it's not real having a mental health issue, but that's okay. There is a word called mooching. I don't know if it comes from Baron Munchausen, but some people believe that you can have a condition and it's fictitious. So there is actually a condition called fictitious disorder, it's factitious disorder, where it's a mental health condition where a person pretends to be sick to deceive others. Because Baron von Munchausen looks like a Prussian general uniting the states of Germany with his high boots on and clipping things. So that's how I would think of the illustration of Leith Van Olsen. Good work, Leith. You make your creator proud. Anyway, so in economics, it's a different type of world where you get people like Elon Musk making an alliance with Ron Paul in America to audit the Fed. There's a bill out at the moment. I know we're going from one extreme subject to another, but this is happening in America. Tammy, my girlfriend, was showing me a video of Elon Musk on a stage with a chainsaw. She was saying it was stupid, but I really do like Ron Paul. He was a purist, and some people believe that that's where Donald Trump gets his good ideas from, and if he does, well, so be it. Donald Trump is in power for the next 4 years, and Ron Paul was a great ideologue who came up with great ideas for the American state at the way he saw fiscal problems emerging, and this is not going away. The Federal Reserve Transparency Act. We have the same, it's called the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. They do things. I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the history of psychology and how there's two different types of doctors. There's a doctor with a PhD. I think of rap songs, which means I'm not going to say that. Pretty huge dick. And I'm thinking of a medical doctor that is a physician and also becomes a psychiatrist, which can prescribe medication. So in Dr. Sabah Tech 9's rap video, he is a psychiatrist. And the idea of choosing which doctor you want to go to if you want to be sick or you are sick is difficult. There's always a pun on spelling which, W-H-I-C-H or W-I-T-C-H, because in Australia there is an Aboriginal witch doctor called a Kadachi man, which I found very interesting. And they would point the bone at you. And here's a picture of Kadachi man. Sorry about the dead person picture, but you know, didn't make this. And the Kadachi man, well, from a white person perspective, coming to Australia as a colonial, would see them pointing the bone at someone, and then someone would just give up the ghost and die. And to us it seemed like witchcraft, because you would think that they're killing them with the bone, and that's magical thinking. But after thinking about this and seeing the fuck cancer signs around, people have gone to the doctor and been told they have cancer and watched their relatives die, it is something like that. I don't have a fuck cancer sign on my car, but I understand that uranium causes cancer and uranium cures cancer, and the rest is magic. So this is what's interesting about calling a doctor a witch doctor. But in psychiatry, there is coercion, mental health acts, they're all around the world, they do affect people, and it's a problem about cause and effect. So with my last relationship, it ended with me going to a state psychiatric asylum in Brisbane, and I came out of it, but I was visited by 2 mental health nurses and 2 police cars, taken there for 3 days. They held me there for 3 days. I came out, but I was very changed by the experience, and I heavily blamed Brisbane psychiatric systems for my problems, both good and bad. It's probably more complicated than that. I was smoking marijuana, and marijuana causes psychosis or laziness, and I was actually to blame myself, but because there was police involved and the hospitals involved, it didn't seem like it was my fault. All I could do was run away and be like Ned Kelly in the bush. So, in the past, there used to be something called Christianity, and the Christians used to look after sick people, and so we have this original kind of psychiatric hospital called the Bethlehem Royal Hospital, and then I guess it was called Bedlam as well, and Bedlam means crazy, because they would lock people up, try to treat them, they never get better, and they just die in there. And then they go, oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Let's lock people up and they'll die in there, we'll call them crazy. And it's what's interesting about the word mad. If you go into an office environment and you get mad about something, they don't like that. They will call the police on you, or they will think you're crazy, because you're not allowed to get mad inside an office. And it's just a double entendre every day of the week. Don't get mad in the office, get even. Revenge is a dish best served cold. But I've been to university in Inverell, and my peer workers at Flourish Australia have not been to university, so I don't know if they know about all these things. They take their medication and they turn up to work every day. And so when I got out of the state psychiatric hospital, I looked up 2 books. One was Coercive Psychiatry, it was an Oxford book, and it sort of says that coercive psychiatry is like coercive control in a sexual sense, where you're kind of raping or assaulting somebody by dragging them into a hospital to help them because they didn't consent to it. But it is still allowed in Australia, and I don't think it's ever really going to go away. They will just say, he has complex issues. But it's just whether the state wants to pay for sick people. So that's Thomas Sars, and he, in the 1960s, they had an anti-psychiatry movement. Apparently it's still going on with the, not Jehovah's Witnesses and not SDAs, Scientology. The Church of Scientology is still pumping out mental health is not real. And anyway, I'm not going to look that up. But what it comes down to is that there is a argument you have with people about whether mental health can be linked to biological pathology, which is a disease, or it's just a human habit. And so there was this New South Wales health, drug and alcohol counsellor. I know his name, but I still work for Flourish, and tomorrow I don't, but he works in New South Wales Health. And at New South Wales Health, you have to believe things to get paid and have a job. I saw a funny Reddit comment about Disney villains are the managers and shaking chihuahuas are the employees there. So they can really get in trouble, lose their job, lose everything, because it's really hard to get retrained if you work for New South Wales Health. But he was trying to tell me that being an alcoholic is a biological pathology. And I was like, how can you say that? You can't pick up the brain disease by having a gateway drug called 4X at the pub. Politicians would say that doesn't pass the pub test, or the lawyers would say that doesn't pass the reasonable person on the train test, because what the hell is the brain anyway? And psychiatry has such a long history of failure from adventurous psychiatrists experimenting on their patients that people like Anne Griffey deserve their NDIS packages and do have invisible wheelchairs. Now, this picture here I found very, very funny with its magical thinking. If you have magical thinking, you are probably mentally ill. There was one guy that was involved with the cannon, and his name was Newton, where force equals mass times acceleration. And there was another guy called Einstein, where energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And Newton was very sane, and Einstein was very insane. Because now we have nuclear bombs, but back then they only had cannons. There's this argument that goes on the internet, the world is flat or round, and so this advertisement is very ironic, and they've done a little trademark in there, trademark, which I thought, well, why not? And I got this idea from Andrew Scull here, which he's a sociologist, and he put down a very long and elaborate history about psychiatry's close relationship with the drug companies or psychiatric medications. and how they kept trying to find a cure, never found a cure, tried again, never found a cure, but there is some interesting litany of mistakes or inhumane treatment ideas that occur when you're trying to find a cure for a social problem. And the two biggest ones currently are haloperidol. I met a lady when I worked for Flourish that took haloperidol, and she did not like haloperidol. It's a poison that made her fully retarded, fully incapacitated, and it's like they call it at the hospital, they call it dropping somebody, where you don't need a tranquilizer gun, you need haloperidol to take down an elephant. The other one's called clozapine, which apparently works too, but in half of all patients they get tardive dyskinesia and akathisia, which is restlessness, shaking, twitches, and so the people aren't cured, they're just contained. They are very passive, they're not mad anymore, you can do whatever you want to them, poke them, prod them, kick them, shove them, and they're not mad, they're just gentle. Only sane people can get mad about this. Insane people can't get mad because they'll be told to take their medication. And if you like gay people, Michael Foucault did Madness and Civilization and pretty much said the same thing as Thomas Sars. I'm probably not pronouncing his name correctly. But one interesting thing that John Searle said about Rene Descartes is there was this dualistic distinction between res extensia and res cognitans. And one is an object and the other is a subject. And dualism exists because a subject can never be an object and an object can never be a subject. But then in the law courts, that is carried over to guilty acts and guilty minds. We're never going to change this. To be guilty of a crime, you need a guilty mind and you need a guilty act. And, well, it's from Rene Descartes. Maybe it's not, but either way, it has come in with the Cartesian curve of the x and y axis. It's not axis, the x and y axis. Like axis of evil? Yeah. So, in a law court, you can plead guilty but not be fit for trial in New South Wales, or the other one is you can plead non-guilty to the intention of it, but say you were negligent in doing something. You don't have to just plead guilty or not guilty. There is a lot of different variations in guilt. And I think people understand that. I got you, man. Res extensia and res cognitans. So this is Flourish Australia site. in Inverell, because it's actually not. I don't know if we can drive around to the new site, because nobody works there anymore. There was a meeting with Jessica Donnelly, the manager, where Gary Moden, my colleague, asked me to ask her if she required any assistance with the moving of the site, and she said it's fine, she's got it, doesn't need any help. But until they update this, I'll be working at Flourish Australia in Burrell, not getting paid, because that's me in the car out the front, and that's Catherine, we call her Kath, and the other car out the front. Flourish Australia does a really good job. I have nothing against their organisation. It is excellent. It's an excellent idea. They try to support people that have been in state psychiatry, because they know that it really does damage people. So the new site for Flourish Australia is in here. Right? Don't know how long it'll take to update it, but Kath and Gary still work there with the other people. But I thought of a really interesting idea here, where Yarrung Aboriginal Corporation, as you can see, no longer works in this building. There is an illegal tobacco shop in there now. Now, I don't know what happened to Yarrung Aboriginal Corporation, but the fact that they've still got their sign up while they're selling illegal tobacco inside of it is really damaging to their brand. You know, people say, oh, I thought Yarrung Aboriginal Corporation sells illegal tobacco, and it'd be easy to say and justify. And unless they came out and said, oh, Yarrung Aboriginal Corporation doesn't sell illegal tobacco, we're just a bit lazy and didn't take down the sign, or the government didn't give us enough money to take down the sign, or whoever worked for Yarrung Aboriginal Corporation was incapacitated at the time not to take down the sign. Now, something in Flourish Australia is also happening like that, because, well, it looks pretty empty to me in there. So I'm nearly concluding on half an hour. I don't like to make long speeches, but I dedicate this to Anne Griffey, who really does deserve the NDIS for everything she's been through. And I also got the idea of Hellots and slaves from a guy named Burrell with a big pickup truck, Land Cruiser, and he does polished concrete. But to me, I don't know how many people are doing polished concrete. He looks like he deals in steroids, but you know, that's defamation, and I don't know any of that. It's not true at all. Alright, thank you for listening. Bye.